Hi, I'm Shannon and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you the 3 main reasons why I am a self-published or independent author. But before we get into those reasons, I want to give you a little context as to why. How did it all begin for me? Because I'm an accidental writer. It's not what I originally set out to do. I wanted to be a teacher. And I worked really hard for my college degrees and for my teaching certificate. I am the first person in my family to go to college, and I worked 2 jobs, put myself through school. It took many years, a lot of hard work. And when I finally got it, I was thrilled to be working in the front of the classroom, and I just loved it. But fast forward several years, and after 9 years of marriage, over 9 years, my husband and I decided to have our first son, Nate. And so after we had Nate, we decided that, okay, we still needed an income from me. Maybe not full-time income, but I still needed to contribute to the household budget. So I actually went back to the school where I had been teaching full-time, and I took on a part-time, half-time administrative position. And it worked out great. I was excited because this meant Nate would only have to be in daycare half-time. I could still keep my foot in the door of the school and keep my career going. And hopefully I could eventually return back to teaching full-time after Nate himself was actually in school. At least that was the plan. But fast forward a couple months, and first of all, going back to the daycare, I did as much due diligence as I could. In fact, I chose to place Nate in the same daycare that all of my other teacher friends were using for their own children. And I'd met with this woman, did a house tour several times, had dropped in on her a couple times. It was great. I felt great about this. And so fast forward a couple months, things are going right as rain, and I finish up my work at school a couple hours early, and I decided, you know what, it's near the holidays, I'm going to go grab baby Nate and head home early. So I get in there, and she had an open door policy. You just walk right in. So I did. I walked right in, and it's silent, and I see her facing the computer in the corner of the room, and I kind of look around. I said, oh, are the kids sleeping? And she said, yeah. And so I just assumed Nate would be back there too with the other little guys. But I go into this darkened room, and they're all fast asleep. And I'm looking and looking. Can't find baby Nate anywhere. And so I go back to the little, I don't know, it wasn't really a living room. But it was a room where her computer was, and she had some play equipment out. And so I go and I ask, where's Nate? And she said, I don't know. She said it nicer than that. She goes, I don't know. But she didn't even bother to look at me. She wouldn't stop what she's doing. Now, granted, I understand having to jump on the computer, for a few minutes, then from time to time, no problem. I get that. I'm not unreasonable. However, I was starting to get a little more worried. And I'm looking all over, and she's not helping, and she's not looking up. Long story short, where do I find Nate? Stuck underneath her couch, covered in filth. Now, I was panicked and worried and upset at this point. And I tried, as I was driving home, I was trying to tell myself, he clearly got himself under there. Surely he could have gotten himself out. But the point was, 1, she clearly didn't know where he was. 2, she didn't seem to care. And 3, he was filthy. And she didn't even stop or turn around when I found Nate and was struggling to get him from underneath the couch. So I just grab him and I leave, and I'm tearing up on the way home. Now, Nate was fine. He was, he was smiling, he was giggly, he was clearly happy to see Mom, but he was covered in filth, and I was riddled with mom shame and mom guilt. And for better or for worse, and unbeknownst to my husband, I decided to quit my job that day because I could always go get another job. I could always go back to the classroom. I couldn't always be a mom again to Nate, at least not the kind that I wanted to. And, life had other plans. I never did get a chance to go back to the classroom. That's another story for another day. But what ended up happening is my desperation. What is that? Necessity is the mother of invention. My desperation I still had to figure out a way to bring in money. I was going to be at home with Nate, and yes, we're going to save money on daycare, but we still needed the income, albeit part-time, that I was bringing in. Suddenly we weren't going to have anymore. So out of desperation, I created a site called makingbysaving.com. Now, don't bother going and checking. It's not there anymore. It went down years ago. And I actually created it almost 20 years ago when it was the beginning of the internet, when WordPress wasn't around. Taught myself some HTML, got online, created this site, created this forum, devoted to the idea that you could somehow make money by actually saving and stretching the money you already had. And that's actually the most financially beneficial way to do it, because then you're not paying more taxes on extra money that you're earning. You're just really maximizing every cent that you've already been taxed on and already brought in. So this forum, this site is really active. Lots of people. Turns out there are lots of people in the same boat. Maybe not the exact same situation, but looking to stretch their dollar. And that leads me to where I got an opportunity. An agent reached out to me via the site, a literary agent, and said, hey, you've got a platform. You clearly have some expertise. I have an opportunity for you. I want you to write a book. I have a publisher already waiting. We were just looking for the right person. We think you're it. And I signed on the contract. I signed on the dotted line. I wrote the book. And 20 years or shortly thereafter, I wrote a book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Stretching Your Dollar. Now, this still is available on Amazon. And while there is a lot of good information in here, it was not a great experience. Essentially, this is not the book I would have written. This is the book I was told to write by the literary agent and the publisher. And, you know, no ill will towards them. I'm just speaking from my experience. Maybe that is their role. Granted, they were looking for a very specific person, but in the end, the process of writing this was not great. Did I get an advance? Yeah. Am I traditionally published? Did this end up being in bookstores? Yeah, sure. But the experience of this was not great. And so let's go ahead and jump into those 3 reasons. First of all, a lot of people, a lot of aspiring authors think of success as landing an agent, landing a traditional publishing contract or opportunity. And I would have agreed with that years ago. But having gone through that experience, let me tell you, first of all, did I get an advance? Yeah. And I'll be really transparent. I got an advance of $10,000, which when I had no job sounded like a windfall. It sounded great. The problem is you don't get all that money. First of all, your agent takes a cut. Then the taxes take a cut. And what was supposed to be about $10,000, well, I think my take home was about $6,000. Yeah, not kidding. And what you may or may not know about advances is you have to pay off the advance in book sales before you see any more money. And that I have not seen any more money since that advance 20 years ago. So my idea of success changed because I want to ultimately write and create books and resources that are what I want them to be, what I think will benefit other people. I don't want to write something that is the preconceived ideas or hopes of a publisher or a literary agent. Instead, I want to write from my heart and from my own experience. This was not. But when I choose to self-publish and independently publish, I am in full and complete control. And that leads me to my second reason why I prefer independent publishing: control. Did I get to play a role in choosing the cover for my traditionally published book? Not at all. Did I have any control on the interior layout? Nope, not at all. Did I have any control over the content? Yeah, I wrote it, but they gave me an outline. They would read my draft, and then they would rewrite it for me. When you have more cooks in the kitchen, you give up a certain amount of control. If I'm going to put my name on something, I want it to be something that I'm proud of and that I can own and that I can stand behind. And so, you know what, I'm going to put up a couple pictures of books that I have self-published so that you can see them. And these books that I'm showing you right now, not only did I write them, I laid them out myself. I designed the covers, and I did all of the setting it up on KDP to actually publish it, both as ebooks as well as print on demand or paperback books. And I just love that process because that amount of control also gives me the amount of creative freedom that I'm seeking. So not only do I get to write the content or create the resources that I want, but I get to present it in the way that I want to too. So I guess you could say that is a bit of a double-edged sword because while it's more control, it is more work and effort, but it's effort and work that I want to take on because I truly enjoy that process so much more when I see the end result rather than seeing a book that I don't feel is mine. It's really not a piece of me. The third reason I prefer self-publishing is speed. I get to control the timeline of the process. If I feel like the book or the manuscript would benefit from another month or two of working on it or a few more drafts, I can allow myself that latitude in time and schedule. If you're working with an agent or a traditional publisher, they often know in advance when they want that book to hit bookstore shelves, and you don't necessarily get the time you need in order to craft the best manuscript that you can. I will also say a fourth reason, actually. So the first one was success. My definition of success has changed. I don't have to be traditionally published to feel successful. I just have to create good end products. The finished product has to be something that I feel proud of and can stand behind. 2, control. I would rather retain as much creative control as I can by doing everything myself rather than putting my work in the hands of somebody else and letting them run with it. And number 3 is speed. The ability to control and give myself more time if I need to in my schedule. So those are the 3 reasons. But as I'm talking right now, the 4th reason is I get to control how I promote the book. Now, I assumed that as a traditionally published author, my agent or the publisher would find ways to help me promote my book. Now, they did give me a list, a PDF, of over 100 different ways to promote myself, and I was already doing quite a bit of them. I ran an active blog, I was managing an active forum, but there were other things that the publisher I assumed would help me with. Now, they did set up one radio interview, which I did, and I was willing to do more had they provided me that opportunity. And they did set up an opportunity for me to do a book signing at a local bookstore. And I sold every single copy of my book the day I did the book signing, which was a fun experience, don't get me wrong. However, that was all they did. And in this day and age, nearly 20 years later, we have the internet, we have YouTube, we have podcasting. If you think that a traditional publisher or an agent is going to help promote you any more than you could promote yourself, at least in my experience, I got to tell you the truth, that was not the case. And not only that, I would rather take on the work and responsibility of promoting myself rather than leaving that in the hands of somebody who may not know me or may not promote me in the way that I want myself to be perceived. Or I would rather reach out to the audience who I know I'm going to resonate with and is going to benefit from what I have to share. So I guess how would I put that? Having more control over my promotional side, promoting my products, rather than leaving that in the hands of somebody else, a third party. So that is my story of why I self-publish rather than independent publish, rather than traditionally publish. And if you are an aspiring author or writer and you're trying to currently make a decision, do I try and get an agent? Do I try submitting to traditional publishers? Or do I go the self-published route? I'm not sharing with you or telling you one way or the other. I'm just sharing my story. And I hope that you can make a decision moving forward that's best for you. When I talked about speed and schedule, it might feel like self-publishing will take a lot longer than would traditional publishing. However, that's not always true. People spend years trying to get an agent to sign them. People spend years submitting manuscript after manuscript to traditional publishers. So you can spend that time trying to get somebody else to do everything for your book, or you can spend that time doing it yourself, taking the time you need in order to create a final product. Now, yeah, I got an advance. I got some money up front from this book. However, the books that I have created and self-published on my own, while I didn't get an advance, I'm the one. Nobody else is taking a cut except for Amazon, KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. They take a cut. But I keep and I pocket the vast majority of the funds from those sales. I don't have to give a percentage to an agent. I don't have to give a percentage to a traditional publisher. So there's just a lot of different things to take into account when you are trying to get your book, your project out into the world. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, whether you're an aspiring author or not. Thank you so much for watching. If you are an aspiring author or a current author, traditional or self-published, let me know in the comments if you have any specific questions, or if you want to see more videos like this. I'd be happy to share my process, maybe share some of my triumphs and trials as a self-published author. I wouldn't say I'm successful in the traditional sense of self-publishing. I'm not, making a full-time income off it. But what I am doing is enjoying the process. And to me, at this point, enjoyment and personal fulfillment and really feeling proud about what I'm creating and putting out there, that's my definition of success. And I can say, thankfully, that I am meeting my own definition of success when it comes to writing and authorship. So again, thanks so much for watching. And if you have a minute, leave any of your comments below. I can't wait to read them. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.